Gentlemen, let's welcome Matthew Willig. How's it going?
Hey, man. I was jamming out to that freaking intro. That was sweet.
It's a basic intro, but I'll get to
I
it.
like it.
Oh, yeah, it's an introduction, man.
It's a good groove. It's a good groove.
Yeah, let's welcome the ex-NFL player and current actor, which we all know he plays a big role. When I mean big role, he plays Andre the Giant.
Yes, sir. Good to be here, CG, man. Thanks for having me, brother. Appreciate you.
Anytime, brother. You know, speaking of your NFL days, man, what got you into playing pro football in the beginning?
Listen, man, I was one of 6 boys growing up, man. So I had 5 brothers, and I was the 5th of 6. So I was one of the young pups. And by that time, man, it was already in my DNA, get out there and play ball. So yeah, football it's funny, man, because actually, even though I enjoyed football, I was a soccer kid. I played basketball, so those were my big sports. And then as I got bigger and stronger and faster, I think football took over.
Did you ever even thought of pro wrestling or not?
That's another funny thing, man. I was playing ball. I was in Atlanta in around late 90s, and I got to start playing. I was bowling with these guys who were wrestlers. Back then Atlanta was a huge hub for all the boys. And they were like, Matt, man, you can kill this if you come out right now. You could easily make 6 figures just out the gate. So there was a period of time where, like, if my NFL career kind of fell off, I was thinking about doing it.
You could have at least had some good success, but I think either way, you have a really good career, no matter how.
Well, dude, think about it though, man. I'm 6'8". I was weighing 3 something at the time. I would have been massive, man. I would have been up there with the big boys.
Yeah, you would have. I think you would have been over easily because of your size and all that. But
yeah.
But speaking of professional football, I mean, you had a great career despite how you played. You played a lot of games. I guess you played about 140 plus games, and you had 43 starts, if I'm mistaken.
Yeah, I think I've seen that before. It might be a little bit off. I think you've had a few more than that. Listen, man, my deal was this. I came into the league as a defensive end, right? I go to the New York Jets as a free agent, defensive lineman. And it's a wild shot at best. And what happened basically was about 3 weeks into camp, they come to me and they say, hey, man, I don't think you're going to make it, as a defensive end. We want to try you out on offense, try you on the O-line. And I did a couple of drills, and the next thing I know, man, I'm on the O-line. I'm on practice squad my first season, and off I went. Played 14 years in the NFL. So even getting started was a bitch.
Oh man, it had to be difficult from going from defensive line and then going to offensive line. I kind of understand that because I had to be switched at the end of my semi-football days, man. Like,
yeah,
I was a defensive guy, but when coaches wanted me to play some O-line, man, I'm like.
It's a different mentality, brother. It's a different mentality. Yeah. But you know what I did, man, as I'm sure I used that kind of aggressiveness on defense as an O-lineman, so when I first got to the O-line, I was starting fights. I was running down, hitting guys the last second of the play, breaking off piles and shit. So it was a lot of fun that way. So I used kind of that defensive mentality to my advantage.
I mean, at least you had a long career because most guys who were undrafted, they wouldn't even be able to play longer than 3 years. I mean,
right.
Maybe the position change was for the better.
There's no question, man. There's no way. I mean, I was a slow white kid as a defensive end, but as an offensive lineman, I had some skills. So, yeah, man, look, it was even like, okay, so for my first 4 or 5 years in the NFL, I played for 5 different head coaches, right? So even like the first coach, Bruce Coslett, way back in the early 90s, and he liked me, right? Well, he gets fired. They bring in Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll likes me, so I stick around.
Oh, your volume. Okay. Oh, your volume. You're muted. I can't hear you. You're mute. You're muted. You're mute. Hold up. Yeah, you're muted. Can't hear you. Yeah, I can't hear you. What happened? Oh, let me see if I can fix it. Was it unmuted? Let me push unmuted again. Can't unmute your guest. Damn. Yeah, you're muted. Yeah, let me go backstage and see.
There we go.
Yeah, it's all good, man. Yeah,
I apologize, brother. If you want to leave me in with that question, I can start again. I don't know, whatever you do. But you want to be live?
Yeah, we've been live. It's all right.
Get up, man.
It's all right, man.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, you were talking about the Jets and then the other coach.
Yeah, look, man. The point being is that look, even though I got a break, every year I had to kind of redo it over and over because I'm trying to impress new coaches. So I mean, that was the tough part. Was every year I had to kind of redo it again, reprove myself, and so that's kind of the way my career went. So, if I started one year for a team, a new coach would come in, they want to bring in the star athlete, the star tackle, that kind of thing. So that was the way my career went. But to be honest with you, man, I wouldn't have had it any other way. 14 years, played for 6 different teams, went to a couple Super Bowls. It was pretty badass.
I mean, you got a ring out of it, so I mean that's something. I mean, you had it at USC and then you had it at the NFL level. I've actually interviewed a player who actually did it all, like in college and NFL. So you're like the next one. So you played. I mean, at USC you did play with the likes of Junior Seau, so he had to be pretty interesting to play with at one point.
He was actually my roommate when I was there, when I first got to SC. And so him being my first roommate was a trip, man. He was, listen, man, the guy was unbelievable. I had so much respect for him, but he was maniacal, in everything, whether it was, playing hoops. He loved volleyball. He was, every now and then we'd have some pops and he would go crazy. He was just one of those dudes that you could never tell, what side of the bed he was going to wake up on. But man, what an athlete, what a freaking unbelievable player for so long, man.
I mean, he played for a very long time, but I guess those concussions caught on with the CTE. That's tragic.
No question.
I mean, that guy was an Iron Man. That guy was a beast. Like, I don't think they make many linebackers like of his caliber.
No. Because again, man, there's guys that we've seen play at that level, but not for so long. They burn out at 5, 6, even 8 years. To do it plus 10, plus 12. I don't know what did he play? 15 years, I think.
No, he played about I think 19 years.
Did he really?
Yeah, because he played majority of his career with the Chargers, and then he went to the Dolphins, and then he went to the Patriots, where they were a part of the perfect season at one point. So I think it was basically 18 or 19 seasons.
Damn. That's a long time, brother.
Yeah, and he was kind of at a point where he wanted to get a ring, and he just never got it at the NFL level, but at the college level he did. But yeah, I mean, you went from 6 different teams. Like, you were just a journeyman, man. You were just a journeyman offensive lineman going from place to place. But what was the difference once you went from the Jets to the Falcons?
Well, first difference is, like I said, I played for 4 different head coaches for the first 4 years. Then I got traded over to Atlanta. And so that was kind of cool only because they wanted me, right? June Jones was the coach. I don't know if any of your listeners or viewers remember him at all. He went to play and coach for Hawaii for a few years after. But
I remember him.
Yeah, June Jones was awesome, man. Real quiet coach, really good dude, and he really liked me. What happens? We have a kind of a mediocre season. He gets fired.
Oh, man.
Bring in Dan Reeves. Dan Reeves, he's a Hall of Fame type coach, but him and I did not get along. He was one of those, if you weren't down the straight and narrow, if you were a little bit off, you like to have fun, you like to mess around a little bit. He didn't like that at all. So him and I sort of always butted heads.
It's one of those coaches that you just have to go, yeah.
Yeah. So there we go again, I'm behind the 8 ball again. So I go a couple years in Atlanta, have a lot of fun, good group of dudes. And then Richie Kotite gets rid of me. But I end up going to Green Bay.
With Brett Favre, the Iron Man of the NFL, man. That guy was tough as nails.
Dude, he was such a blast, man. To watch him practice even was freaking really cool, and got to hang out with him socially a little bit. Him and the boys.
Was there any stories behind the scenes with you and Brett Favre? Was like, man, I gotta know, man.
There's a couple I can't tell, man. There's a
couple.
I
mean, I'm pretty sure he had some. I'm pretty sure he had a good personality and just knew how to get people laughing, right?
That's exactly right, man. He was one of those dudes that just loved to be kind of in the mix with the boys. At that point, they had already had a couple Super Bowl runs. And so I show up, and, I was a veteran now at this point, 6, 7 years in the league. And so they kind of brought me in and said, hey, come on, Willig, hang out with us a little bit. End of the season, we took a trip, got in a little airplane, about 7 of us, and went and had a trip. And so we just had a lot of fun, man.
It had to be fun with Brett Favre. I mean, there's nothing wrong with what the guy does. I mean, then you go to the 99 Rams, which they were just on the verge. They were improving from 98, where they were a team that probably won 5 or 6 games, if I'm mistaken. And then they became that Super Bowl contender. But what was it like just going to the Rams?
Well, that was the year we won a Super Bowl. So that was where I got my Super Bowl win, was 99 Rams. So that was a trip, man, because on one hand, it was the coolest experience, greatest show on turf. Falk and that was when Kurt Warner came in, and Torrey Holt and Marshall Falk and all these dudes. I mean, they were just badass, and I had a front row seat. That was one of the years that I probably played the least. So in reality, it was kind of it was personally a disappointment, not to play. Listen, man, when you're making a run and you're playing well, even when you're not, it's your job, so you want to play. That's the deal.
Yeah, that's the mentality. But it kind of reminds me,
sitting on the bench sucks, and
it's like the movie Benchwarmers, like you were playing that role.
Exactly. See, it all comes around, man.
It makes sense.
That's right. But yeah, I mean, it was a great experience, man. Watching those dudes play and seeing them and get in the ring. I'll tell you a quick story. So I was in the locker room before the Super Bowl, and so I come to find out, and it still hurts this day to talk about it, but I didn't suit up for the Super Bowl, right? They deactivated me.
Damn.
And I was just disappointed as hell, and really kind of bummed out. Dick Vermeil, head coach, legendary guy. He comes, now we're getting ready for the biggest game of our lives, right? And he's the head coach. He walks over, sits down next to me in my locker, and he's like, hey, man, I just want to tell you real quick that I know you're disappointed, and we wish we could have, got you suited up and maybe even played today. He goes, I'm sorry it's not going to happen, but let me just tell you something. He goes, you were important to us. We needed you. The way you handle the guys in the locker room, the camaraderie you helped bring about, and the practice guy that you are. He goes, we're glad we had you, and you're an important part. And that was the coolest thing that I could have, at that point heard from the man who's trying to get ready to freaking win a game, the biggest game of the year. And so that's kind of what I hold on to, is not number one, that's all I needed. Number two, Dick Vermeil, man, an unbelievable person.
I mean, he was the old school coach. He was definitely well respected. Like, even in Philadelphia, they really liked him.
Yeah, they would have taken it back even years after, right? But yeah. So yeah, that's the kind of guy he was, man. Attention to detail, and he loved to freaking make everybody feel a little special. And again, man, I was pretty disappointed. So that was a cool way to kind of finish that. And what an unbelievable game. You got a ring from it. It's pretty badass.
I mean, if I was in that situation, bro, I would have been more than happy just to get a Super Bowl ring, just being a part of the roster, bro. Like, it's right. Like, maybe you want to play as a competitor. Like, most competitors want to always play, but I get that feeling, man. Maybe that's what the movie Benchwarmers was for you for, man. Because you get the role.
That's right, man. I'm telling you, it's look, man. We all got a part to play, right?
We got a role.
We can't all be the guy, and so I think if I was the guy, I would have been one of those dudes who lasted 5-6 years, maybe, and then kind of, then fell out. I think being a solid backup like I was, a guy who could come in and learn the system. Man, I saw guys that came in that were so much more talented than me but they didn't have the mentality, man. They didn't have that pro mentality, whether it was, getting your shit done, knowing what you're supposed to be doing, or, guys making the same mistakes over and over again. And they ended up, they got bounced because they just didn't have it. I was a guy who came in, I learned my shit quick, and I was a good backup. So it helped me last longer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you last longer with being versatile and then having that stability with them. Right. So then you went to San Francisco, which, this is the team I represent. But what was it like just playing with the boys in the Bay, man?
Dude, it was one of my best teams, one of my favorite teams to play for a number of reasons. I always rank my teams based on the guys in the locker room, especially the O-line. Those guys were tight. We're a tight group usually, and depending on how those guys roll is usually kind of my experiences. But the 49ers always treated their veterans really well. They just always knew how to treat their guys, not beat them up, kind of take care of them. And that was the same way. Steve Mariucci, another freaking outstanding freaking man and coach, a guy I really admired, and he took care of me and was a good dude to play for. But we had some great guys, Terrell Owens was still there, and Jeff Garcia was the quarterback at that point. But we had a great O-line, Derek Deese, Ray Brown, Dave Fiore. These guys have been around for a while, so it was a really good group of dudes. We had a lot of fun, man, a lot of fun. And I'm a California kid, man, so being in Cali, kind of back home, I had one of my daughters was born there. So there's a lot of great memories.
So you just have a special heart for the Bay, huh?
Absolutely. Always and forever, brother. Always.
Yeah. I mean, you had to play with a lot of these guys. And I think I've seen a couple of pictures of where I think Derek Deese had a picture of you with a joke where you were kind of having that look inside where you were sitting down and you were doing this. I guess those guys were fun to be around with, right?
No, I'm telling you, man, we were just together. We were a good group. And we liked to have fun. We had a good coach, a guy by the name of Pat Morris. And he was a younger guy, and he kind of got our sense of humor. So now it went from jokes in the freaking meeting rooms to, the practice field all the way into the buses and all that shit. That's just the kind of game we had, man. We were always messing around.
So you had a lot of your starts with the Niners, or was it majority with the Jets or other teams?
No, I had some good starts there. At that point, Derek Deese, I was backing up Derek Deese for a while, and he was a guy who was going through some injuries. So what would happen is he would start the game, he would come out in the first quarter, and then I'd play 3 quarters. So I wouldn't get the start, but I'd play most of the game. So that kind of happened probably 3 or 4 times my first year. I played some guard there too. So
yeah,
I was
important.
Oh yeah. The versatility and everything, that's kind of, again, man, going back to making me last a little bit longer, just the fact that I could play that. And being I'm almost 6'8", a lot of times guards, you can't be that freaking tall, Jeff Garcia trying to throw around me, trying to
like you can't see because you're right there. You're like a brick wall.
Willig, man, get down lower. I'm like, and I can't. That's as far as I go. But yeah, man, I had a lot of good playing time there, like I said, and we had one of the greatest comebacks in playoff history when we beat the Giants.
I remember that
comeback victory, with Strahan and those guys, and like I said, same thing. I came in and we were down like by
24 points. Yeah, I thought that game was automatically over.
Well, yeah, great game, man, and I came in and played the rest of the game, and was part of that victory. So one of the great highlights.
Yeah, like it has to be because, it seemed like the game was out of reach and you came back in this game. And then I guess the commodity, for what you're saying is the Niners organization treated you with respect the right way and you had fun with it. So that was probably one of your best experiences by far as all NFL teams, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And again, man, it starts with the head coach. And like I said, Mariucci was a badass dude.
Very likable coach too. A lot of respect. But was there ever any other scenes with Terrell Owens, man? I know the guy was a personality guy, but was there any stories behind the scenes or not?
Yeah, it's funny, man. T.O. and again, he didn't know me from Adam, man. So I came in and a couple of the guys, Derek, I knew Derek from SC way back in the day. And there was a couple of the guys that I had known, that kind of, and I remember one time we were playing we were throwing bones, man. We were playing dominoes, right? And Tio, like you said, man, the guy, he's got a personality, and he didn't know me, and he started talking some shit, and I remember just not grabbing him, but pulling him aside, go, dude, look, man, I'm a veteran here. I'm not any rookie. You don't treat me like that, man. Treat me with respect, and I'll give it back to you. And from that point on, man, the guy was cool as hell. We got along really well. So it was one of those things. I just had to kind of put him in check a little bit.
Humble him a little bit, yeah.
Just a little bit, man. Just a
little
bit.
Humble, but I mean,
dude, Tio was that man. Freaking his personality, man, was huge. Like he had a head, this big. So
yeah, who wants to mess with a 6'8" giant, man? Who wants to mess with that person?
Just check him a little bit, man.
Yeah, like he kind of mistake you as a rookie. Oh wow.
Right. I can pump this big dude. I'm like, no way.
Yeah. And then you go to Carolina. You go straight to Carolina after that. So what was the experience when you went to the Panthers? Then you went to that Super Bowl appearance with them.
Yeah. Again, man, I wasn't sure if I was going to continue to play. I was literally in an RV with my family. I hadn't been signed. Camp had started. And I was like, what's going to happen? Just sit tight. I decided I'm going to take my family on a little RV trip up the coast, right? And literally a day into it, we're about halfway between LA and San Francisco. And sure enough, man, my agent calls. He's like, man, Carolina wants you. I'm like, well, I'm on a trip. They're like, they want you today. I'm like, well, tell them I'll be there tomorrow because I had to get back. So I had to turn around, come back to LA, get on a plane and jump out. So I was already like, they were a couple weeks into camp. I ended up coming in, and at that point they had a rookie tackle named Jordan Gross who went on to, do really well and be an all-pro for a lot of years. And I helped mentor him. And again, another great group of dudes. I mean, guys that I really respected. Kevin Donnelly was in his 14th year as a guard, and Todd Stussy was playing. He'd been an all-pro from the Vikings for a while, and he was with Carolina now. And it was just a miracle season, brother. I mean, I'm telling you, man, first game, Rodney Pete's our quarterback. He's not kind of doing it, so they bring in Jake Delhomme.
The journeyman quarterback, yep.
And the next thing you know, man, we're on a streak and we're, doing well. And again, I've never been a part of a team like that, CG, where just, man, like the group just molded together, man. And it's like we willed ourselves to win games. We probably won that year, I would say 7 games, like in the last second field goal or something like that happened at the last minute of the game where we pulled it out. And I'm telling you, man, as a guy who played a long time in the NFL, sometimes there's just this much between winning and losing or getting on that streak, where you start winning games. And it just seemed like that year Carolina had it, man. And it was a lot of fun to ride that year and ride that ride and get to the Super Bowl. Had a blast. And unfortunately, again, all those wins that we got the last minute come to the Super Bowl and we lose on a last second field goal.
Damn. It's like, rough, man. But it had to be fun to be a part of this team where they actually kept competing. Like, I think previous years when you were coming in, they were still a team.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think they had one good year in the beginning, or them and Jacksonville played well, but they were struggling.
Yeah, they were down right there, and then they had to go from another coach, which was John Fox. I mean, what was it like to play with that guy?
John was good, man. He was a little bit of an old school guy. He was kind of a Bill Parcells coach, but when you're winning and things are going, we had to we actually molded him a little bit, and tried to calm him down a little bit, to keep him from being like that tough, hard ass dude. But John was a good dude. He really was. He had been through it before, so he kind of knew the formula, man, what wins games. We had a solid running game, really good defense. And so he kind of helped mold that team into what it was that year. It was pretty awesome, man.
It had to be a quick turnaround from there. I mean, it took once he became the head coach, it eventually became a turnaround because I think George Seifert was the head coach for Carolina that previous time.
Yeah. Who had a lot of success and just couldn't get it done there. Yeah, I think that organization needed someone like John, like a tough coach, to come in, get rid of the riffraff, bring in guys who were winners, guys who knew how to freaking work hard and that kind of thing. And that's the kind of guys we had. I'll never forget that the city of Charlotte. Dude, I'm telling you, man, I had never seen a city come together like that. When we started on that playoff run, there were thousands of people like waiting for us when we got home in the city. Like we won the NFC Championship game. I think there was like freaking 50,000 people in the city, just freaking packed, waiting for us at like 2 a.m. When we left for the Super Bowl, it was snowing, a big snow blizzard outside. There were people lining the streets from the time we left, our facility to the time we got to the airport. There were people lining the streets, freaking cheering us on. So, I mean, it was one of those, you really kind of trip and you look around and you go, dude, this is amazing, man. I've never seen a city get behind a team like they did. It was once in a lifetime.
Oh, it had to be nice. And then being around certain players like, Steve Smith was probably coming into the league. Like he was still like a couple years into the league. Was Steve Smith a good personality guy or no?
Steve was awesome, man. Steve, he was like a T.O., right?
Small T.O., yeah.
He was a small T.O., but Steve was also a smart dude, man.
Smart guy in the business, yeah.
Yeah, he knew how to be a really good pro. He worked his ass off, man. That's what I give him, man. He's one of those dudes that not only talked a lot of shit, but he worked his ass off all the time. So he gets a lot of credit from me because and he was a good dude, he knew how to kind of calm it down and be a regular guy. And then when it was time to ramp it up and be that sort of prime time dude, he did that as well. But Steve was awesome.
Oh yeah, dude. Like there was that one playoff game where Carolina played against the Rams and it went into double overtime, I believe. Wasn't it like wasn't it the longest playoff game of all time?
I think yeah, something like that. Yeah. And dude, at that point, again, knowing what it was like to play in St. Louis in that dome, you just didn't go in there and win a lot of times. It was hard to win in that dome. And in a playoff scenario, man, I'm telling you, brother, it was really like we were just alone in that place, and to go do that there was awesome. It was really cool. I'll never forget Steve catching that ball and running in the end zone, and the game was over, and it was like, let's get the hell out of here now, man.
Let's get out of here before the fans come at you. I mean, it was one of those type of situations, but yeah, there is this one dude in Carolina, which I believe he's a local in Fresno, which was Ricky Manning. I think he had a couple of picks, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was. I think Rick. I'm not sure. Was he a rookie then, or maybe?
I think he was. Yeah. Like he was a cornerback from UCLA.
UCLA, yeah, that's how I remember him. Yeah, and he was a guy who kind of was a sometime player and was a great special teamer. And all of a sudden, the playoffs come, and the dude tore it up and sort of kind of started making a name for himself. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that guy because he went from 2 Super Bowl losing teams because he went from the Panthers to the Bears. So it's
shit.
I mean, the guy won a championship. I think he's been in competition before where he competed in so many championships but just never won it. Like, I think there was a championship where in high school where he played it, like Edison played against Sanger and they lost that championship. And then I don't know. It's like he was the junior.
That's the way it rolls for some guys, man. They're always this close, man. They never get over the top,
But at least you got there, even though you didn't play. But hey, I take it any day of the week.
Right. Yeah. And again, man, Carolina was different for me because I played a little bit. I was part. Yeah, you just want to be part of the deal, And I was playing, and so it meant a lot more. Even to go to the Super Bowl and lose that year, which was a big time bummer.
Yeah. But as a competitor, would you rather be a starter on a rebuilding team, or would you rather be the backup on a Super Bowl contending team?
Yeah, that's a tough question, brother. Tough question. You know what? It's hard to say.
You were between those two situations, but if you had to choose,
like I said, if you give me the Rams and the Carolina Panthers, I would take the Panthers.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's a lot of people would look at me and go, well, "What the hell, man? You don't want that ring?" Yeah, I do want that ring, but I'm telling you, it's just, it's what we do, man. You want to be a part of it, You
want to be a competitor, yeah.
Yeah, I can tell you, the worst thing to do is be on the sidelines, watching it go by. So,
Yeah. So when you were on that Super Bowl on the 99 Rams, where were you at? The sideline somewhere?
Yeah, we were on the sidelines. We had to we wore our jerseys. There was about 10 of us that were like that. They made us put our jerseys on with jeans and shit. It was just a weird feeling, man.
Street clothes with a jersey on, I guess.
Yeah, right.
It's like you were injured or something. It was like you were injured.
It was weird. It was a weird situation.
Yeah, it had to be, but you got the ring. That's all that matters, I guess.
Ring.
But as a competitor, you would prefer to be on a team like Carolina that was a quick turnaround. So that makes sense because you saw the difference, how they were a quick turnaround. So.
Yeah, and I felt like I had a piece of it. I was a piece of bringing and helping, being a good, like I said, man. I was part of my deal was I could come in and like in that year, like I said, this guy Jordan Gross, who was a rookie and
became a great tackle,
mentor him a little bit, and kind of throw my knowledge around a little bit and help that guy along, and pressure those guys because, like I said, they knew I was a backup who could come in and play at any point.
And you had a lot of mentorship for them, so it was good.
Yeah.
I mean, it was more like you were kind of a coach, if you think about it. Yeah, you got to think of it that way. Even as a backup, even though the backup is kind of like you want to be a starter, but at least if you help this young kid, he'll say, "Hey, I took some knowledge from somebody like Matt Willig, man. Yeah. This guy." There was a couple of your moments. When I looked at a couple of your moments, I seen you throw the flag in Carolina where the ref just flagged you. And then there was a couple of fight incidents where you were with the Niners where you got shoved. Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, that was the beginning of my acting career, man.
Oh, you were playing acting before it even happened.
I'll never forget because that goes way back to when I was at SC, and we were in a bowl game against Michigan State, right? This big old dude named Eric Moten was an All-American guy, and he did one of those pushed me after a play, and I did a kind of a flop, and they kicked him out of the game. And the coach, the O-line coach at that time, was this guy Pat Morris, who I told you was the coach with the 49ers.
Yeah.
So I did that. That happened again with the 49ers, and same thing. I was freaking battling. Like I said, I used to love running by and flying on piles and nailing dudes at the last second. And I hit this guy, and he came back and freaking took a shot at me. And sure enough, man, I did the acting flop, and he kicked him out of the game. And I'd turn around, and my boy Pat Morris, who had seen it like 10 years earlier, he was yelling at me, "Willig, you're fucking Hollywood, Hollywood."
You knew from there you were Hollywood right there.
So from then on, man, it was in my head, man. It was in my head. I had it down.
I mean, you went from this giant monster you went from the Wally Panther character right off the bat.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. Acting was a trip. We could get in just a little bit, but what I was doing is I was hosting some radio and TV shows when I was playing ball. Just doing some radio or maybe some TV spots where I was doing interviews and stuff like that. And that was kind of how I got the bug, man. I got the bug from that, and from that kind of led into doing some commercials. And I was even doing commercials when I was still playing in the league.
Oh, I mean, you were still getting those opportunities. You were getting prepared for the backup plan in case it didn't pan out. But you had a 14-year career, and then you ended on the high note by going back to the St. Louis Rams, which was 2005.
Yeah. Was
Mike Martz a really good coach, or was he like, eh? I heard mixed reviews. I've heard mixed reviews with Mike Martz, so I don't know.
Yeah, man, look, I base it all on my personal experience, right? I'm like, some guys love him. I just didn't like him. I thought the guy had a little bit of a two-face to him. There was a lot of say this, mean that, say this, do something else. And again, man, I came in and it just didn't work out. It was kind of a bummer last year for me. I again came in. They really didn't need me. I was a backup. I wasn't playing. Towards the end, again, I wasn't even suiting up, and that's kind of when I was like, maybe this is it for me because I don't want to do that. I don't want to be a sideline guy anymore. Yeah, it's nice to make a paycheck. There's no question, man. Money is great.
But you want to do something.
Hard to turn down, but again, I want to play. And if I can't play, then I think it's time for to move on. So, Yeah, it was kind of a weird and shitty way to end my career. But again, man, I'm thankful to every one of those teams, even that last team, and even Mike Martz for taking chances on me and and bringing me in.
Oh yeah, I mean it's just a blessing to have a long career, but we can go into the nitty gritty with the offensive line and little topics. I mean, do you follow much of the 49ers or the team in general, or no?
I follow the team in general a little bit. It's funny because Brock Purdy.
Oh yeah, the real good story.
Yeah, he was Mr. Irrelevant, which I'm involved in every year. I've been doing Mr. Irrelevant, their like the banquets and stuff like that. I've been doing that for almost since I was at SC for 40 years.
Nice.
So I got to meet Brock last year when he first came out, and we showered him with all this stuff and said, "You can make it, you can do it." And you never know because it's a long shot. And to go ahead and see what kind of year the dude had, man, what an incredible freaking year. And it was really cool. Great family guy. And so it was really cool to see that. So I'm interested to see what happens this year with him. Hopefully he comes back healthy. And I'm kind of glad they got rid of one or two linemen.
Oh, you mean McGlinchey?
Yeah.
Hey, McGlinchey plays like you, not just like I'm just playing with you, man.
Damn.
Hey, he played a flop role too. He played a little flop.
Yeah, that'll end the interview quick. Man, shit.
I'm just messing with you, man.
He got paid too, by the way. He got paid.
He got paid. That's all that matters. I mean, for Denver, hopefully Russell knows what he's doing because he has to run for his life. But when you look at the Niners' offensive line, just as a outside looking in, what do you think of the offensive line? You got Trent Williams, who's an All-Pro. Then you got.
I just heard recently. Who was talking about him, man? It was maybe the tight end.
George Kittle.
He was talking about how he thinks that Trent is one of the best athletes on the team, period, if not in the NFL, which I thought was insane because I don't really know the guy very well. I just know he's a really good player. So, it starts with him. If they can keep him healthy. How many years has he been in now, man? He's been in a while, right?
He's been in the league since 2011, so he's been around. Like he was with the Washington, now they're Commanders now. But he's been a really great leader. He's still very athletic, and the crazy part is he gets better throughout age.
That is the crazy thing for as big as a dude as he is, man, to be playing at that high level. So it starts with him, man. You get a great left tackle going. They should be good. There's no reason, man. They shouldn't be right up there right away and competing for a Super Bowl again.
So like when you look at the rest of the offensive linemen, Aaron Banks, he kind of showed some signs in the second year. So that was promising from him coming into Notre Dame. He was redshirt his rookie year, so he learned a lot from those veterans. Right. And Jake Brendel's been I would say Jake Brendel was in your situation, been a journeyman too. Yeah. But now he's getting a chance to be a starter, which he's done this season. Like, as far as your experience, what's it like to just see what Jake Brendel could do?
Well, that's the thing, man. I think sometimes it takes a few years to kind of get where you need to be. Some guys come in right away and they fall right into it and they're playing well. Some guys, it takes them a few years to kind of figure out the league, figure out where they stand, get bigger, get stronger, all that stuff. And next thing you know, you get in the right fit and you're ready to go. So I think that's kind of what I'm hoping for. Is it's one of those situations where now that he's playing, he's ready to go, and he becomes a pretty positive force for them.
Yeah, I mean, that's all we're hoping for. He got his payday, so that's all that matters. Then you look at this guy I interviewed last year coming into the draft, Spencer Burford. This guy went from tackle to guard, which he's already played the position in college his first 2 years. I just like the fact he bulked up this offseason.
Yeah, he was a little light, right?
Yeah, he was about like 3-something, like 305 or something. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, he was a good kid.
Yeah, I think the way the Niners play, they've always kind of been a lighter offensive line. They don't like the big bulky dudes. So that's the way they play. They've always done that. Even changing coaches, going back 10, 15 years, that's the way they've been. So, again, quicker, quicker moving, faster moving guys who can get around and got the light feet. That's really the most important thing right now. So that's kind of what we're looking for.
And the versatility is what they look at also. So
yeah. That's the thing. Like you said, a guy comes in playing tackle, now next thing you know he's a guard. There ain't too many 6'8" guys anymore.
I mean, there was like at one point, during that Super Bowl with Jim Harbaugh, we had this one offensive lineman who was about 6'8" or 6'7", but he was playing guard.
Really?
Alex Boone.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He was a big guy, and Frank Gore kept telling him, "Move out the way."
Yeah, Boone was a big dude. Yeah, you're right. That's right.
Yeah, he was like a rare position. Like I think there was just the thing. I think he was voted as an All-Pro at one point. Like just
I think you're right.
Yeah, because that Niners line during that Harbaugh era, they were one of the best line, but it doesn't compare to the Niners because they actually are a good run team and then their offensive line. But the right tackle was probably the most question mark, which Colt McKivitz, he's kind of had a journey, he's went from playing tackle at West Virginia, he had to develop more. It took him some time to adjust. Now he's becoming the starter, so we'll see what he can do. But have you seen like a little bit of Colt McKivitz or not?
I have not, man. I haven't really seen him, so I'm kind of interested to see because you're right. That's the big question mark. Yeah. I'll be interested to see. I haven't even noticed either. Have they brought any other veterans in to kind of help along?
Matt Pryor is who they signed because he's a veteran, and they brought in John Feliciano, who can play center, guard, and tackle. Yeah, most versatile guy.
And that's kind of what you need because you never know. But yeah, that right tackle spot's going to be the key. And I don't think they're going to. I honestly think he's going to do well. And I don't think it's going to be much of a fall off. Like I said, I think that the last year they struggled a little bit, and I think. Like I said, man, I think they're going to do well. I think we're going to find out right away that the Niners are for real again.
So as far as your prediction, I know it's probably too early to go there. Do you really think the Niners have a legit shot to make the Super Bowl this year or not?
No, I absolutely do. Look, as someone who's been around the league for a while, there's this much difference between winning and losing. And I think the big key to that is health. And if those guys can stay healthy and they keep their key guys healthy, then that's going to speak how these guys do, and vice versa, man. A couple guys go down, they don't have the guys they really need, whether it's a couple of linemen or a receiver, Kittle, whoever the quarterback's going to be, then you're in trouble. So I think if they can get through September, with like a 3-1, 4-0 type of deal, I think they're on their way.
Yeah, I think all it takes is us to get the number 1 seed. But I feel like if the Eagles are still the same, that might be the only competition. But there's always that new team, that one team that you can't sleep on. So I'm guessing, as far as like as an outside looking in, I would think Detroit might even be that sleeper team that everybody's not talking about.
I would like to see Detroit have a good year. They're on the upswing. I like their new coach, man.
Was it Campbell?
Yeah.
That dude
it was fun to watch him last year do the Hard Knocks thing.
Oh man,
yeah, I'm excited for Hard Knocks to get going. That's my.
I think the Jets are going to do Hard Knocks because of Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, because Aaron Rodgers is on that team. That's going to be intriguing to find out how Rodgers is.
Again, man, I've watched. That was my first team, and I have a little bit of a love for the Jets, but it's been a long time, man. I'd like to it doesn't matter who's in there. I'd like to see them kind of come up and at least contend a little bit, and show some force in the AFC. But yeah, dude, I think the Niners. They got some stuff to prove, but I think that they're legit.
They're legit. Yeah, I mean, we just have to wait and see what happens. Like you said, the health is more important. If we can stay healthy, I think this team is unstoppable at this point. But, we'll see who that next roadblock is. I mean, last year the Eagles came at a good timing. Yeah. And I guess the Brock Purdy story just came to an end. But maybe there's hope for Brock Purdy to make that comeback and make it better than he's ever made it.
I think so, man. I think so. As a young kid, man, you get that youth on your side, brother. You can heal fast, and so hopefully it works out for them.
Yeah, but you never want to write down. You never want to write off a kid like Trey, man. We'll see what he can do too, man. He's intriguing.
I know, and he is still kind of yet to really put it out there for a season or even a half a season and kind of see what's up. So I think either way they're going to be good.
Yeah, and then you got your boy Sam Darnold from USC. I mean, he's already with the Niners, but man, this is an interesting quarterback room, don't you think?
Yeah, it's a good problem to have, I guess. Right? There are some teams that are struggling to find their number one, and you got a room like that where you've got three legit, quarterbacks. I mean, look, Sam Darnold struggled, and it's frustrating watching him because I know he's got the talent. I've seen him do it many a time, but again, man, sometimes when you make that jump from the college level to the pros, it's just something you can't get done. So, but again, good problem to have. Three legit quarterbacks that can come in and win games for you.
Yeah, it's good to have, but I mean, if you look at Sam Darnold's career, I don't know. Like, he had coaching changes. I think he just wasn't in the right situation. Maybe this is what Kyle Shanahan could do because Kyle Shanahan doesn't only develop quarterbacks; he puts them in the right system.
Yeah, no, he's been known as the magic guy who can come in and turn guy around or really develop a guy, and so maybe that's what he needs. You're right. Like I said, having done it before, I know what being in the right system can do for a player. You know how it can change a guy who's either written off or just not fitting over this side, move them over to another team and another coordinator, and you got somebody who's legit all of a sudden.
Oh, yeah. It makes a difference when you have that coordinator for quite a while and that head coach. And if they work together as a team, that's what makes a great quarterback and head coach duel successful. I mean, you look at the blueprint, Tom Brady and Belichick that done this for a long time, and that's longevity, but it takes time, but we'll see.
Man, like you said, everybody's there's 10 different ways to do it. You got teams that have defense, you got teams that have their star quarterbacks and have that sort of that Belichick sort of style where the whole team is kind of it's the way they run things, and then you got high flying offenses that's the way they get it done, and they're giving up 30 points but they're scoring 40, so it's a trip. Yeah.
I mean, what would you rather prefer, a high score offense where they score quickly, or would you rather prefer to just have a long drive and still get points on the board?
Ooh, depends. If I'm playing defense, I want the long drives. Give me some rest. If I'm an offensive guy, I love wearing down defenses, man. That's the way to do it. There's nothing better looking across the field and seeing a whole bunch of defensive players on their knees or freaking bent over, gasped because we're pounding them.
So, as an offensive lineman, what do you prefer doing? Like, are you do you prefer run blocking, or are you good at or you prefer pass blocking?
It's funny, man. I enjoyed pass blocking, but again, there's nothing like being in the fourth quarter. I can think of a couple games where we were in the fourth quarter just pounding them down because they didn't want to play anymore. There's nothing better than just talking a lot of smack.
Yeah.
When the defensive players are kind of giving up and you just want to, you just ramming it up their ass and taking control of the game. That's probably the funnest.
It has to be the funnest just to get the defense word out, and then you go into the last quarter but then you get under their head a little bit mentally, but then you play a little flop game, and that's what got you into Hollywood. So I guess you got to put it that way.
It all comes back to the flops, man.
I guess maybe for certain athletes, they got the flops from somebody. I mean, they had to be just watching a lot of Hollywood movies and all a bunch of stuff. So, I mean, they had to be some. I mean, was there like any other show appearances that you've done? Like maybe were you any other wrestling appearance shows? They always tend to have special guest athletes every now and then, just to come in randomly.
Yeah, no, I did some stuff when I was first in my career, and I did some kids shows, Nickelodeon and that type of stuff where I played a couple wrestlers on them. That's it's the big guy thing, man. Exactly, growl and do all that shit. But the cool thing is to kind of elevate elevate my game a little bit into something more than just the grunting stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just think the personality that you brought to the table is what got you to Hollywood. But can you do that Andre the Giant impression, the voice?
Oh man, don't ask me to do that right now.
Okay, maybe next time.
next time.
I'm just kidding. I mean, it had to be cool just to play the role of Andre the Giant.
No joke, man. I was so honored to be able to play it. And I did a ton of research for it, and it was really a lot of gratification, man. Just getting out there and kind of having the fans kind of enjoy what I was doing, because it's not easy. I knew I wasn't going to be as big as Andre. I ended up gaining like 25 pounds, 30 pounds for the role of not good weight, fat weight.
Oh God, yeah, but he was bigger than life.
And just working on the voice, and it's this. And like I said, I'll do it for you next time. But
yeah, it's okay, man.
A lot of mumbling,
Oh, you want to drink beer with me?
Exactly. You just got to make that tongue as big as possible, brother. That's all you got to do.
Oh, I see. I can't do that, but
I know it's tough, man.
I know, but for the near future, man, I'll definitely reach out for you. But I mean, we've been going on about this football questions. I know you probably. I mean, maybe there's a couple more. Maybe a couple more questions about your football days. Like, was there like any other ribs in the locker room that you had or you saw?
Any what?
Like ribs, how athletes do stuff behind the scenes, and it was kind of like a funny joke, and then one of them just didn't take it lightly.
Oh, well, yeah, we I was part of several of those things, man. I've told a story before about Kevin Barlow for the Niners.
Yeah,
we were there, and the guy, he was a smart ass, right? The guy's a rookie, and he was a smart ass. He was bringing his phone into meetings. His phone was going off all the time, and they kept telling him, "Hey, man, you can't have your phone. You can't have your phone in meetings. You can't be on your phone." And he kept disregarding that and bringing his phone. So one day we took the phone, took it out of his locker, and I shoved it down my pants, rubbed it all over my junk, and then put it back in his locker. He ended up finding out about it and went and cried to Mariucci. And the funny part about it is he was crying and bitching. 5 minutes later, the man was right back on his phone. And I'm like, what the, shit like that. So.
See, I know there were some ribs in those days, but now in today's like professional lockers, they don't even do this type of stuff.
No, you can't do that shit anymore, man. It's a different way of doing stuff.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of ribs in wrestling and even in professional football. I never knew that was such a story like what you had with Kevin Barlow, man. So technically he was on his phone, too busy, acting like he knew it all, and then that one day you just go into the locker, get a cell phone, shove it up your jock, and then he just like, okay, that I can see why.
Yeah, well, you think it would discourage him from jumping right back on it, right? Or at least try to clean the damn thing first.
Yeah, and he cried about it. That's even weird.
He had to answer the phone.
Yeah.
Listen, brother, I hate to go. I got another appointment to go.
All right, understand.
And so I got to run. It has been an absolute blast reminiscing with you, man. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, appreciate your time.
Go Niners, and hopefully they rock it this year.
All right, for sure, bro. I'll keep in contact. But yeah, bro, appreciate your show. Hey, have a great day for everybody else. And as always, go Niners. And thank you, Matt, for your time.
Peace. See you, bud. Thanks, man.